Hearing loss sex, and can it really cause tinnitus? Now, in this video we're looking at something that many of you may have, and that is hearing loss tinnitus. But in this video we're looking at, is there a link to this? In this video we're looking at something many of you may have, and that is hearing loss tinnitus. But what we're actually going to be looking at is there a link to this, and having sex, or more precisely having an orgasm through sex, is the link a possibility or just a theory? If there is one, we will look at how this may occur and why. Coming up shortly, as well as we will go over some real life experiences who claim they have tinnitus as a result of sex. Now, no, there is not a video clip of this actually happening or images, so sorry to be so disappointed for some of you. But once you've seen this video, it would be interesting if any who have experienced this to put comments in the comment section. Where else? You see, I'm looking at the many other ways that people develop tinnitus. Those of you who have tinnitus, it would be great to hear how your tinnitus actually started, and you know how it came about and how you feel is what was the main cause for you. You see, as a former sufferer, I had tinnitus for 15 years, and I put it very much down to my former DJ days, playing loud music, high decibels, night after night, and driving home still hearing the noise in my ears. Now, I'm certain that had an effect. But anyway, enough of that. Okay, let's get into the purposes of this video, finding out if there is a real link to tinnitus and sex. Now, I first want to read where I come across this issue. Sorry for the obvious pun. Okay, poor attempt at a joke. Joke's over though, as hearing loss and tinnitus is a serious subject. And it has to be taken that way. As I said, a former sufferer of tinnitus, I no longer suffer, but more on that later, and more importantly, ways to stop it. But back to where I saw this info. I'll put the link to the full description in the full article in the description to give recognition. In fairness, I did search this out after a client told me they were sort of suffering tinnitus after having sex. I'd never heard anything on this, so did the search. I come up with some very strange, weird and wonderful videos, but enough of that. So, first I want to go over an extract from the lady who wrote the article. She goes on to say, sometimes when I come really hard, my ears ring and I go a little deaf. I struggle to hear my boyfriend's sweet post-sex lines that sound like Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young lyrics. Yes, honey, we can have two cats in a yard. I know life used to be so hard. I'm not the only person to lose my hearing from really good. And she goes on. Now, when I tell my friends about the problem, she says, they say their orgasms have also left them partially deaf. She also goes on to say, when I come really hard, I hear ringing in my ears and feel a little deaf for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. That's afterwards. She says, my friend Kate told me it's cool because I don't have to listen to anything or anyone, and I can just lie there in a stupor until my buttons reset. The more my auditory senses are obliterated right after orgasm, the better it probably was. It takes a proper bonking to deafen me, she says. Just in case you've skipped a bit of the video, this is me recalling someone else's experience. It's not my own. Okay, when I told my boyfriend about the ear ringing, he said, that's just what happens when you bing bong and bang bang. It goes on a bit more, but that's enough of that really. Unsure about this theory, she discussed it with her ear, nose and throat surgeon, Dr. Eric Levi, who did some research on this unexplained phenomenon. Now, broadly, have you ever heard of ringing the ears related to orgasm? Dr. Eric Levi, I've never been asked that before, he says, but I've never even thought about the association between the two. So he did what he was trained to do and looked into this. He researched it to see if there was any available explanations in any scientific literature. Now, I think he found possible explanations, but First, a big disclaimer. I'm not an expert in the subject, he said, of tinnitus and the female orgasm. So, the findings details here are not an extensive and definitive thesis on hearing loss, tinnitus and the female orgasm. It's simply how theoretically and scientifically make sense of it with the limited data available on the matter. Is there research on this subject, he questioned. Well, there are thousands of scientific papers about hearing loss and tinnitus, and there's obviously hundreds of papers about the female orgasm, probably more actually. There is nothing in the literature that links the subjects of hearing loss and tinnitus with orgasm. Therefore, I can only deduce on the basis of first principles of physiology. I certainly do not think that a prospective randomised double-blind controlled human study on this matter would ever pass the ethics committee. It then goes on to explain about tinnitus, but there are other videos on this channel to explain that. So I will go on with the explanation as to why, according to the doctor, this happens. You see, it is the subjective experience of sound in the absence of any objective external stimulus. That's tinnitus. Tinnitus is a common problem. There are many types and causes of tinnitus and can be associated with hearing loss in some cases. Well, actually, you got that wrong because it is in fact the majority of cases through hearing loss. So, subjectively, patients describe many different kinds of tinnitus: ringing, high pitch, humming, or pulsatile. Most of us would have experienced a mild form of it at some stage in their lives. For example, after a loud concert or when in a quiet room and having your ears blocked, you might hear that soft high-pitched noise in the background or the beating of your heart in your ears. Now, patients who have lost their hearing also describe significant tinnitus. It's likely due to the loss of function of the hearing cells and nerves. The receiver, the brain, always wants some auditory input. If there is no objective neural auditory input, then this gap is filled in with this subjective white noise. So, what could happen during orgasm that triggers the onset of tinnitus? So, looking at the physiology of orgasm, there are 4 phases of the human sexual response cycle: the excitement phase, plateau phase, orgasmic phase, and resolution phase. During the excitement and plateau phase, the heart rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure go up. Some muscles contract voluntarily and others involuntarily. Their arousal increase in excitement physiologically and climaxes in the orgasmic phase. The orgasmic phase in males is said to last 10 to 15 seconds and in females longer. Sex increases the production of oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, which leads to the release of endorphins, the body's natural morphine. A complex interplay of the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems occurs during orgasm. This is then quickly followed by the resolution phase, which allows the muscles to relax, blood pressure to drop, and the body to slow down from its excited state. It is during this resolution phase that some experience tinnitus with or without hearing loss. So, okay, there you have it. So the unanswered question in my mind is, can it ever be a permanent cause? And personally, I feel it probably could be. This is based on the fact I see so many people who have tinnitus and not really certain how it has come about. See, age-related hearing loss with tinnitus is excluded because this is the major cause that those who develop tinnitus in their younger years, I feel, are probably likely to suffer tinnitus after sex. Plus, the older generation doesn't have as much sex. And before the older ones start saying, yeah, we do, no, you don't. It's fact, we don't have as much sex as we get older. I can personally vouch for that. Okay, so the article did go on about the doctor's hypotheses, and I'm going to do another video on that. But really, it's more important that if you have tinnitus from orgasm, will it be permanent? Well, not likely, but a possibility, of course. I personally feel that it is something that will have a temporary effect on you. What is interesting is that it's quite a common occurrence, because in the report it went on about many other friends and other people that have experienced this. I suppose it's not really known about so much as it's a subject that is still thought of as something to whisper about, which is ridiculous. It's the most natural thing in the world to do. Unless you're old, of course. I'm joking, sex is good at any age. Just less frequent and less energetic as we get older. Okay, one thought is that the permanent tinnitus can happen after a loud concert or explosion to anyone, and it is usually a one-off, but putting yourself through a loud concert, or in my case, DJing night after night after night, on a regular basis is more likely to lead you to permanent tinnitus. So, could it actually become permanent through regular sex? Who knows? I suppose everything is possible. To conclude, should you be worried or have concerns? Not really. Even in the unlikely event it becomes a permanent tinnitus, this can be dealt with. Hearing loss in any event can also be dealt with and is the most likely cause of tinnitus in the first place. It certainly isn't a reason for stopping having sex, or to use as an excuse, not tonight dear, I don't want to get tinnitus. Okay, so to finish off, I hope you got something from this video. It's a little bit different. Now if you do have tinnitus, have a look at the other content on the channel, all about this and the description for help. There are lots of ways to manage your tinnitus and get to a level that does not interfere with your day-to-day life. So on that note, I would like to thank you for watching. I wish you all good health and don't stop doing what you enjoy doing. See you in the next video. Bye for now.